I run a workshop that I call Rock Timber Glass. It's very creatively named. It's got a rock at one end, a timber in the piece of timber in the middle, and then a glass at the other end. And it's a corporate workshop. It's great because rock it's a very heavy, it can be heavy, it can be hard, and it's cold. And I refer to that as our past. The timber is something that can be broken, it can be sanded, it can be shaped, and that's our present. That's all the things we're working on. And then the glass is an empty vessel. It's something that you want to fill with all the hard work from the timber and moving away from the rock. And to be able to own your stuff or understand your opportunity better is to be able to look at the rock. And I have people stand next to it and they have to talk about what their stuff is. So for me, it was an absent father, angry, lost, confused, digging this hole of lack of self-worth and all those sorts of things. And that rock was in front of me and I tripped over it so much and it dictated my behavior. And it wasn't until the day that one of my friends who just said, "Hey, don't ring me like this anymore. I love you, but don't ring me drunk anymore and telling me how hard you got it." It wasn't until that day that I actually was able to move over to the timber, right? And the timber then became my present. What was I working on?
Welcome to the Smart Cities Council podcast. Smart Cities Council is an international organization aiming to create a safer, more beautiful, enabled, and resilient future for everyone, with more than 400,000 members and collaborators across the globe. Today, I welcome Tommy Herschell from Find Your Feet to the podcast. Tommy Herschell, founder and CEO of Find Your Feet, has extensive experience in nonprofit organization management and over 14 years of global teaching experience as a high school teacher and educator and group facilitator. With a BEd from Griffith University, he excels in developing educational platforms and is skilled in journalism and radio, having worked for Time Warner, Fairfax Radio, and Southern Cross Media. Tommy, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. I'm just listening going, I must be old doing all those things.
Come on, Tommy. You are awesome. Have been done all those things.
Yeah. Wow.
All right.
No, I'm very lucky to be here.
Let's jump into the first question, which might be very interesting seeing your specific field, but let's start with this. What does smart city mean to you?
Yeah, it's a good question. We spoke about it before we started recording, but I remember when we were lucky enough to come and speak at the conference, one of the things, that Corey Gray said to me was, "Tommy, there's absolutely no point in having these smart cities if we can't communicate. And there's so many ways to communicate through speech, through touch, but just by caring and being kind to each other." And I guess that's the work that we do. And so for me, yeah, a smart city is all of this innovative stuff and this state of the art technology and all these amazing, ways to be able to look after each other into a long, clean future. But for me, a smart city is where people get along, people are kind to each other, people connect, and probably the most important, where people are empathetic. I think that's one of the greatest attributes anyone can have, to be understanding of others and what they're going through. And when we're able to do that, we're able to connect, communicate, and then once you've done that, I guess that's a really great platform to collaborate.
Which brings us very neatly into what Find Your Feet is doing.
I give people a platform to tell their story and for others to listen to others' stories, give them the skills to be able to own their stuff, so own their behaviors, understand their behaviors, but also give others the skills to empathize with people in and around their behaviors. And then the last one, the most important pillar, is give them the tools to be able to leave a workshop with the ability to change this culture that we've been given, which is you just got to get on with it, just got to harden up. Or even the opposite, which is I've got this issue and I'm really stuck with it. So my job is all about giving people the skills to go, yeah, I've got this going on, and this is what I'm going to do about it. I'm going to take action. In a corporate sense, in any sense, really, sporting, community, school, education, where I run workshops, we take people from the me sort of idea way of thinking to the we. Like, we're a group, we've got to work together and understand each other. And I think when you can do that, you just create a much more productive workplace. You create a sporting team where people know what's going on. When they know what's going on off the field, they play better on it. And then in a school environment, when they understand why the bully is a bully, they're able to get around that person and really change those behaviors. So I started Find Your Feet because I didn't have any of those skills. I was a young fella whose father left at a young age, and mum, dad, they split, and he left. And I spent a big chunk of my life being angry and not having the skills and the tools to be able to own my behaviors and my stuff. And it would come out in unhealthy ways like alcohol and things like that. And yeah, it wasn't until one of my great mates called me up one night and just said, "Mate, don't ring me like this anymore. Don't." I used to ring him drunk all the time and crying down the phone. And what he did was he made me own my stuff. He made me go, "Hey, what am I doing? I'm playing the victim." And it was this awesome opportunity to then go, "Hey, there's work to do, but I deserve that work. I deserve the results that come from that." And that doesn't mean the day that I walk into a counseling place or a rehab place that I'm immediately fixed. I think it's a little bit like becoming an athlete. You have to train at it, you have to work at it, you have to be persistent, and you got to have discipline. So yeah, this organization called Find Your Feet, it does that. It gives people an opportunity to stop, find their feet, and go, "Hey, what am I doing, and what could I be doing better?" And one last one, the most important, it stems from a young fella that I was lucky enough to meet called Bastian Mardrell. And he was 15 and a half. He was diagnosed with Ewing sarcoma, a really aggressive form of cancer. And I spent a lot of time with him before he passed. And one of the last things he said before he passed, he said to his mum and dad, "I want you to take me out in the backyard. I want to touch the earth with my feet one more time." And when he did that, he turned to his mum and he said, "Mum, tell my mates to love life and don't waste it." And when she told me that story that night, I was 32 years of age at the time. I was angry. I was drunk. I was arguing with my beautiful little kids who were just being little kids running around making noise. And I just thought to myself, I'm not loving life and I am wasting it. So that was the moment for me where he forced me to stop, find my feet, and go, what do I want to be doing? So yeah, we're in schools around Australia, corporate organisations, sporting clubs, run a 2-hour workshop. There's 4 in total in the program, and yeah, incredibly blessed to be able to do the work that I do.
Being a participant in one of your workshops at the conference you mentioned at the APAC week for Smart Cities Council in August in Adelaide, it was really moving. And it sounds a bit cheesy, but it was an authentic experience, which was
Mm.
a really good thing to live through. How the strangers in the room opened up to each other. And that's, I would say, it's your amazing leadership in the room that allowed this thing to open up. So we are really grateful for that experience. At the same time, I would like to also highlight that it requires real courage to be so open with your own self to the others. So I would like to thank you for being so open with your own hardships and challenges. So that's really cool. Now, I would love to go back a bit before you started to talk about owning yourself and taking responsibility for your own actions. You mentioned that it becomes easier to understand others. And I would love to unpack a bit this understanding because sometimes we can misunderstand this understanding that if I understand something, I need to agree with it or I need to accept it. And I would love to understand what you mean by this word understanding.
Yeah, it's a good one. In a young person's sense, it's that the kid that goes to school every day and bullies others, teases them, makes fun of them, and really isolates them. The ability to understand that person is when they take the platform in the workshop and they stand up and they say, "Hey, my name is," and as you guys all know, I'm a bully. I can be like this and this, but I want you to know I've got stuff going on at home. Like a perfect example of that is a young fellow one time on the Gold Coast stood up, 150 blokes in the room, and he said, "Boys, like I'm just done with being here. I get bullied every day. I get teased for how I look. I've got no friends." He said, "I go home from school and I cry myself to sleep. My mum cries herself to sleep because she's worried about me." And he looked at everyone. He just said, I don't think I want to be here anymore." And it was complete silence for a really long time, and about a minute, which can feel like a really long time. And this legend jumped up and he said, "Tommy, can I say something?" I said, "Mate, go for it." And he looked at this guy and he said, "Hey, I'm completely responsible for what's going on for you at school. He said, I bully you, I tease you, I throw things at you. When I'm not doing that, I encourage others to do it. And he said, I do it because I'm struggling myself. And he said, you're an easy target. And he said, I'm so sorry for doing that. He said, but at home, my mum and dad have just separated. My dad's moved a long way away. My mum's drinking a lot of alcohol and it's hard. And I come to school angry and I take it out on you. And I'm sorry for that. Now, on that day, that young fella didn't know he was capable of doing that. He knew he was capable of being rude and being a smart ass and all those sorts of things. And no one in the room knew that he was capable of doing that, what he did. And so it completely flips their view on this guy as well. And they go, wow, that guy's got stuff going on and he's been rude and he's been mean, but he's also got this awesome ability to own his behavior. And the minute we can do that, it shifts our whole idea of what we're capable of. From then on, we're able to go, yeah, like I have got stuff going on and I just owned it and it feels good. And now I'm going to do something about it. People go from looking down at this person as going, what an awful, mean person that person can be for bullying, to going, hey, that person's human and they've made a mistake and they've realized it. And then they look up at him like, wow, like, that's an incredibly brave thing to be able to do. And on that day as well, like he saved that other person's life who'd been bullied, because all of a sudden he got heard, he got understood. He no longer had to go home and cry. His mother was no longer going to cry because her son was going much better. And it comes out of one simple conversation that two men had in front of a large group, but it gave everyone an understanding that we're human and we make mistakes. We've all got the ability to step up if we're prepared to take on that challenge and go through that tough time. And as well as that, from that tough time comes incredible amount of growth. In a corporate situation, had a workshop the other week here in Sydney where a champion guy got up with one of the major banks that I was lucky to work with, and he'd been at the bank for 12 years, and he told this incredible story about he'd never met his mother. His father never spoke about his mother. They were from Indonesia, and his father was a bus driver. And when he wasn't at school, him and his little brother would sit at the back of the bus with his father while his father drove the bus and worked. And it was an incredible story. He talked about his brother having a lot of issues in and around not meeting mum. And eventually one day the dad was like, boys, we're going to Indonesia. And he said, we walked into this village in Jakarta, and he said, I'd never met my mum, but I just saw her and I knew exactly straight away it was my mum. He said the way that I spoke to her, she understood me, and we spoke. And there was just this warmth. It was my mother. And out of nowhere, this guy, an older guy, goes, "Hey, tell him about what you're doing with your brother." And then he started to talk about his brother, and his brother had attempted to take his own life. He'd jumped in front of a bus, and the bus quickly just stopped. And he realized he had all this stuff going on. And he's telling this incredible story. There's about 100 people in the room, and this guy's been at the bank for 12 odd years, and no one knew any of this. No one, most of all, knew it than one of the head honchos, one of the big bosses, who was this pretty strong, tough bloke. And he just broke down in tears. And I said, mate, what's going on for you? And he said, I've always known that, I won't say his name, I've always known that you were strong, you're reliable, you're resilient, you're loyal, all of these amazing things. I knew that about you, right? Because I've seen you do it in the workplace. But he looked around the room and tears are pouring out of his face, and he goes, and with a big smile, he goes, and now I know why. Now I know why you're like that. And it was beautiful, because this fella told his story and he got heard and understood. This boss acknowledged him as a beautiful human being who, not only works hard, but it's got these incredible attributes. And that's that's all the three pillars that I try to chase in one workshop. A person got a platform to tell their story. They then got the skills, and then they're then given the skills to be able to own their stuff and talk about their stuff. And then the third one, which was most of all, they got to smash this thing that they were able to talk, because we've been taught not to do that. That fellow was probably taught just to get on with it. The Australian culture, just move on. Yeah, you've been through so much hardship, but just get on with it. Whereas when he tells us of all that hardship, we grow from it. I grow from it. I left that workshop. It was a Sunday afternoon. I could have run through a brick wall. I was so pumped and excited. And I just know for that organization, they all left just going, wow, what an absolute awesome human to have in our organization. We're blessed. So yeah, hopefully that answers the question, but it just gives people an understanding of how amazing they are away from the desk. But then that also, in my eyes, and I'm sure in a lot of it, makes them even more amazing when they're at the desk. There's a thing, and I'll finish on this for this question because I can talk too much of that. There's a thing I love, and I call it the find your feet truckies nod. And once you've heard someone's amazing story, you see them in the office or at school or in sport, and you don't have to become friends with them, but you've heard their story. So you almost just do this thing where you go and you lift your head up and you're like, hey, that's gold, or mate, how you going? And that's special to be able to be in the zone when that happens.
And we will get back to the opportunities because just getting those connections is just amazing. And it's a really good opportunity to create better futures for cities, for example. But first, I would love to understand, what do you think are the biggest challenges in your field?
The biggest challenges in my field, gosh, I think is ego. I'm not going to talk out of school, but maybe I'm a little bit. I think there's a lot of organizations in my space that are out there telling people they're experts and telling people they're bloke whisperers. You used the word at the very start there about being authentic. Mate, I couldn't be more authentic if I tried. I'm a 43-year-old fellow with two beautiful kids and an incredible wife. I've got a beautiful life that I get to live. And I get to do that because all those years ago with Bastion, I found my feet and I've done the work, and there's still challenges. There's always challenges. But the reason that I am the way I am is because I'm still living it. I'm still doing the work. And you have to be like that. Like I always say, I don't go in and talk to people. I go in and talk with people. And I think there's a lot of organizations out there that are almost that are taking the piss a little bit. That can be a really big challenge as long as we stick to our mission and our outcome. And I guess then the other challenge is, gosh, probably the ability to get in front of people. I don't often wear a suit and a tie, and I'm probably unshaved and the hair's a bit rough. There's a challenge maybe sometimes of being able to go, hey, it's not how you present. How would you put it? Not how you present physically, but it's how you present spiritually. That's what makes the work, and how you present authentically for me, probably the biggest challenges. But yeah, there's not too many others. I'm really feeling a really good shift in the way that people are thinking. Yeah. So hopefully that answers that question.
It does. And again, being a participant in one of your workshops, it's really not talk to, but talk with people. And
Mm.
that's an amazing feeling. Now, you said that you feel a kind of shift in your field. And I would love to understand what you mean by that, because I am from a culture where victimhood and the victim mentality can be very strong, and I need to very consciously fight that.
Yeah.
And it would be awesome to hear that it's changing in your experience.
Yeah, and I like that you took it that way because I was thinking the other way in the sense it's shifting. I feel that there's a big emphasis now on mental health, well-being, a lot of big buzzwords, which is great. So there's a push for that. Let's have these conversations and let's do that. I feel there's a shift, and maybe I'm only looking down through our lens, the find your feet lens, but I like the shift that now, and I love what you said about, because can I ask whereabouts you're from again?
I'm from Hungary.
Hungary. Yeah. It's interesting that because I was a victim, and being a victim is easy. Being a victim is so easy because you don't have to do anything, and you can blame others and you can drink to deal with your stuff. And that's what I did right forever. But I've been coming across, like I came across a psych the other day, a great young bloke. And he talked about, he was like, you know what? It's awesome to come and see a therapist and see a counselor, but you need to do more than that. You need to go running. You need to go swimming. You need to have exercise. You need to own your stuff. You need to be active and moving away from that poor me or blaming your issue type attitude. Yeah. I probably should retract a little bit. Am I saying a huge shift? Probably not. But am I saying a shift? Yeah, I reckon. Or maybe I'm just backing myself and backing what we're doing and seeing the reaction that we're getting for social media channels, LinkedIn or the Instagram or that sort of thing. And just people coming up in the street, they see the hat and they go, hey, I've been having issues with my wife for so long, and I went for a run the other day and I actually learned that I was capable of doing that. And I got home and my headspace has been completely different. So just that sort of thing, which I reckon which is awesome. It's moving away from the poor me, which I mentioned before, to the we. When I was in victimhood, my home where I'm sitting now was a battlefield for my wife and my kids, and it was awful. The minute that I made that shift to going, hey, a lot of the stuff that went on for me isn't my fault and wasn't my fault, and I'm my own man, and I've got the ability to do great things. And probably also the minute I learned how to love myself. In Australia, we're so bad at being that tall poppy and knocking people down and, oh, you love yourself, mate. That ability to love yourself and set boundaries, personal boundaries, and look after yourself and be kind to yourself is a huge attribute that I think that we don't have. So the ability to be able to go, you know what, it's not my stuff, it's someone else's. I'm going to move on. I'm seeing, yeah, or maybe I'm just hoping I'm seeing. Maybe I'm just being ultra optimistic, hopefully.
Still, it's good that in your experience this happening. I also would like to add that being victim is easy, but also miserable.
Yeah.
So let's change that. And you are talking about, and I love it that you are already talking about the opportunities coming from owning your own mistakes and your own self. What are the biggest opportunities in your field?
Oh gosh, when you own your stuff, when you can say, hey, I'm drinking way too much alcohol and I need to do something about it, you straight away, you're drawing a line in the sand. I run a workshop that I call Rock Timber Glass. It's very creatively named. It's got a rock at one end, a timber in the piece of timber in the middle, and then a glass at the other end. And it's a corporate workshop. It's great because rock it's a very heavy, it can be heavy, it can be hard, and it's cold. And I refer to that as our past. The timber is something that can be broken, it can be sanded, it can be shaped, and that's our present. That's all the things we're working on. And then the glass is an empty vessel. It's something that you want to fill with all the hard work from the timber and moving away from the rock. And to be able to own your stuff or understand your opportunity better is to be able to look at the rock. And I have people stand next to it and they have to talk about what their stuff is. So for me, it was an absent father, angry, lost, confused, digging this hole of lack of self-worth and all those sorts of things. And that rock was in front of me and I tripped over it so much and it dictated my behavior. And it wasn't until the day that one of my friends who just said, hey, don't ring me like this anymore. I love you, but don't ring me drunk anymore and telling me how hard you got it. It wasn't until that day that I actually was able to move over to the timber, right? And the timber then became my present. What was I working on? I walked into a counseling office in here in Sydney. And the first thing I said to my counselor was, hey, the other night I had a complete breakdown in front of my wife. I said, I want to go home to Queensland and I want my mummy. I said, I'm 35 years of age. And I said, why did I say that? And she helped me understand my stuff and own my stuff. And she said, the reason you did that is because you're 35 and when your parents split, you were 10. You've never done any work right on your own stuff. You've never looked for it. You've never tried to chase it. And she said, you're still behaving like that wounded boy that you were when your mum said she doesn't love your dad anymore. She said, my job is to get you acting like like a functioning adult. And that for me that's still the greatest line that I've ever had said to me because it gave me a plan. It gave me a structure. It gave me parameters to work in and understand that, hey, I'm going to go back to being a wounded child some days, and I'm going to be a functioning adult some days. But I want to get to the point where I'm a functioning adult 99% of the time. And then I walk up to the glass and I point at the glass and go, the reason I want to do that work and understand my stuff and be better and not be a victim is because the glass in front of me, that's my home and my family. And I want that to be a safe place where my son sees a healthy relationship between a male and female and a husband and a wife. It's where a place where I want my daughter to see how a man should behave with their wives and the standards that she deserves, but also just a home where there can be mess, there can be clutter, there can be chaos because that's a home. So yeah, it's such an awesome activity because it gives us this insight into when we do step out and grab something and go, hey, this is my, excuse the French, but this is my shit and this is my stuff. I'm going to do something about this because I no longer want it interrupting or hurting everyone else.
And it's amazing that you just brought up rock, timber, glass workshop, because we are getting to the end of the conversation. You have been very generous with your answers. Is there a project you are very proud of and you would like to share with the audience?
You know what? There wouldn't be anything in particular other than everything. What am I? I'm 43. 10 years ago, I probably almost wasn't going to be here. And that's on the back of having the most beautiful blessings in the world. So I guess my greatest project has been myself, my ability to look in the mirror and go, hey, there's a lot of work to do. But then taking that out to the rest of to Australia, we've worked with now over the last 5 years, I've worked with over 55, 60,000 people, spread the message of Bastion's message of love life, don't waste it. Worked with hundreds and hundreds of schools. So yeah, I don't think there is one particular project. Like I was saying before we started the chat, the most beautiful thing about the work is I get to do is we need help, we need funding here, there and everywhere, but it doesn't matter if I'm talking to the CEO of a bank or I'm talking to a young fellow who's in a public school in far western New South Wales, a shearer in a shearing shed, a rugby league player, an athlete. We all need these skills. We all need these tools. And to be in the room when someone who is seemingly so successful due to their bank balance or where they sit in an office, when they're given an opportunity to be able to go, hey, this is actually who I am and this is what's going on for me. I think that's what I'm most proud of, to be in the rooms in those moments.
Tommy, you have been very generous with your time, and please keep up the good work of Find Your Feet. Do you have any closing comments or requests for the audience?
Like I just mentioned, I'm so lucky to do the work that I do. It works anywhere. One of my closing requests, and I haven't been good at this, but that's almost asking for an audience. If you're an organisation out there and you want to have Find Your Feet come in and speak with your team, that's what helps me then go out and do the work other places. And I think another one is, and I had a conversation with an older lady this morning down at the local swimming pool. And we're just talking about her son had been in a battle with addiction. And there was this awesome message that came out of it. She said, you know what I wanted most of all when my son was in the depths of his addiction? She said, I wanted his friends to step up and call him out. I wanted them to not join him and enable him in this really crappy behavior that he was showing. And it's a big part of the work that I push, is like the whole meaning of don't dog your mates. And in a corporate situation, we walk away from someone when we know they've got something going on. We go, oh, we'll just let them go. It's none of our business. We've got to get better at walking over and being really uncomfortable. We're going, hey, just wanted you to know I've noticed you're going no good. What's going on? Or the ability to walk over and go, hey, you're a good mate. I can see you struggling, and so am I. Let's go and have a chat about it. Yeah, that would be my call to action. Let's just be the best people we can be. And I'd love to be able to come out and meet you in your workplace and give you the opportunity to see the work in action.
Thank you so much, Tommy.
Thank you.
If you want to learn more about Tommy, links will be provided in the show notes, and the Smart Cities Council website can inform you even more. What have you learned from this interview? What questions do you have after listening to Tommy? What would you like to know more about? Let us know on the Smart Cities Council website or on LinkedIn. Look out for other episodes and topical discussions, and thanks for tuning in.